name is Kitty, like a cat, and this is my very first Flosstube video. This will be a video about the hobby of cross stitch. And today I figured I would give you an introduction to who I am, why I'm here, and then just jump into a regular formatted Flosstube video for this month. So why am I here? I have been a Flosstube watcher for many years, but just based on my nature, I don't tend to comment very often. I also follow probably hundreds of cross-stitch accounts on Instagram, but I'm just not super likely to reach out to people because I'm quite shy. So I really just want to make friends. I want to connect to the community in a more interpersonal way rather than just a viewer, and so I thought that this would be the best way to do that. This is something I've thought about doing for probably 4 years, and every time I start, I just get self-conscious and anxious. So I hope that this goes well. So as I said, I'm really just trying to make friends and to share this love of cross stitch, and I really do. I just adore this hobby. So who am I? As I said, my name is Kitty. I'm in my mid-30s. I live in East Tennessee. I'm a proud Appalachian. I'm a queer person. I'm a metadata librarian. I have a Master's of Science in Information Sciences. I specialized in digital record management. So I do work as a metadata librarian and a team coordinator at my organization. In undergrad, I studied English literature with minors in linguistics, writing, and astronomy. For my major, I focused on the Romantic poets. So right behind me, you will see this is John Keats, the Romantic poet, who he is my favorite. My other hobbies include I love to thrift. I am a toy collector. As you can see, I collect plush of various lines, calico critters, monster high dolls, shadow high dolls, and Tamagotchi. This is actually the only room of my house that looks like this. This is where they all live. The rest looks more like this side of the room. But it is a hobby that brings me a lot of joy. And I also enjoy reading when I'm not stitching. I read a variety of things. As I said, I specialized in the Romantic poets, so I love reading poetry. I love short stories. I also read novels, fiction, and I read a little bit of nonfiction, mostly fiction. And then my most prolific hobby is absolutely cross-stitching. I began cross-stitching in 2015, and I actually started watching Flosstube videos back around 2016. There was a Flosstube community. Some people used the word Flosstube, some people didn't, and the structure of today wasn't necessarily the way all videos were structured. There were a lot of stitch and talk with me, stuff like that, and I really enjoyed those. I watched them back then. Just because of life, there was a couple years there where I didn't really stitch and I wasn't watching Flosstube, and then when I jumped back in, Flosstube had just boomed. There was just a big increase in just in the population of the community, and so for the last 5 years, I really have been a constant stitcher and a stitcher who watches Flosstube every single week for usually a couple to several hours a week. At that time, 5 years ago, about 5 years ago also, was when I had found out about like overdyed flosses and fabrics, the different designers that are sold like more at LNS's, not craft stores. Before that, I had stitched from kits and Etsy patterns and only worked with DMCs. But once I found out about overdyed silks, linen, I really just, it took off in a new direction, and my stitching passion, it just expanded so much. And I really do, I love variety in stitching. I like to stitch a lot of different kinds of things because my attention span can kind of bounce all over. I have ADHD, and if I get bored of something, there's no convincing my brain to pick it back up. So I like to carry several whips. But because of that, because of the ADHD as well, I don't really like starting things. I find it overwhelming to, you know, I don't have a huge floss stash, so I have to procure the floss, and I don't have an LNS, so you're hoping that the floss looks like it does on the cover based on what it looks like in the picture on the, you know, online website, and what if you don't like it and you're trying to find a substitute, and then whatever. It takes a lot of effort to pick up the materials, and then to, you know, calculate the size of your fabric, measure it, cut it, serge it, etc. So in an attempt to sort of bump up my whip count and lessen the burden of starting things all the time, this year I made the decision to more or less just to start more things than I normally would, to just make that effort throughout this year on a regular schedule. So then for the next couple years, I can hopefully just kind of stitch and just start something if it really, really speaks to me. So to facilitate that project, at the end of last year, I went through my pattern collection and I picked out all the patterns, you know, no rules, no limit to how many I could pull out. I just said, what are the patterns that you're going to stitch absolutely in this lifetime, and you want to stitch them soon. And I pulled out about 12 patterns, and then there were some here and there, like smaller patterns. So I ended up with about 24 patterns, and so I decided that I will start 2 a month this year at least. There are some that I have come across since then that I have added in. And just because I'm doing this project, I'm not limiting myself to how many I do add to my collection of whips. So I usually carry about 20 to 24 whips in general, and I tend to start the same number of things I finish every year. About 10 to 12 things I will finish each year, and that's also about the rate I start things, maybe once a month or less. And so I was hovering around the same number of whips, so I'm trying to bump it up and just start more things. And so if I'm not finishing things, it doesn't really bother me. I have tons of finished cross stitch hang, you know, on my walls. But also a lot of times it just goes in that little cubby back there. So I'm not in any rush to finish them. The things that I really, really, really want up, they get put up. But other times it's really just the process of stitching that is really rewarding to me. I like the tactile feeling of the fabric and the floss. I like the sound of the floss going through the fabric. I like the counting, but I also like fill-in kind of stitching because it's repetitive and it's just calming. And so for me, the hobby is very tactile, so it's not just to have something on my wall. At that point, I'm no longer touching it. I'm not feeling those threads, etc. So I don't mind having more starts than finishes in a year. I'll still finish things though. And to that note, I like stitching on a lot of different counts because it's a different experience. So again, I tend to get bored of things. I like different kinds of, I like neutrals, I like colors. And so you'll actually see I have 4 projects here and none of them are the same kind of fabric. So first of all, this was a start last month. And it was I believe the February Patreon pattern for Stitch Sprout. And that's the only cross stitch Patreon I'm in right now, but I just adore Stitch Sprout. I finished several of their projects and I just think they're so whimsical and so cute and just so well balanced. So this is I think it's called Celestial Witch, and I just realized that I'm not quite confident about that, so but isn't she gorgeous. So she has, it'll be backstitched, so I'll do it at the end. She has constellations on the brim of her witch hat here. So bring that in a little closer because I want you to be able to see how her hair is really like kind of like block stitching. It's been a joy. Like, it just really has been a joy. I keep this one on my Lowry, which is a new acquisition for me. I got it, I think in January. It was kind of like a late Christmas present that I really, really grateful for. It's the limited edition color for this year. It's like the Blackberry Pearl. It's so pretty. And I've been stitching in hand for quite a while. When I stitch in a Q-snap, I stitch two-handed, and so I used to have to kind of prop it up on my knee, and it's really nice to have that stand. It also means that with something like this, when I have a project like this going that's in a Q-snap, I stitch in hand a lot. So if I do have a project in a Q-snap, now I just keep it in the on the Lowry stand, and I can sit down and just do a few stitches. So the process of having to like pull out a project, get out the threads, figure out what color, I don't have to really deal with that as much. You know, you just sit down, and sometimes I just leave a hanging thread because I do it a few minutes at a time. So I've really enjoyed that. And this is no small amount of stitching, really. I think having it on the stand has meant that I have put in a lot more stitches because I can just sit down for a couple minutes, you know, maybe if I'm waiting for dinner to cook in the oven or whatever. Whereas, you know, I would be like, oh, I don't have time to get into a project, you know, it's going to take too much fiddliness. So one more time. Love her. Okay. I'm going to put her. Next was my first planned start for April. And this is a Etsy pattern from, I think it's Jessica Doise, but I'll just show you. Here's the pattern. That's her name. This is the pattern. Obviously it's black and white. It's called Bramble Bun, but I'll show you the colors here in a sec. These are the colors, and some of, like, if you start pulling colors for one of her projects and you start to doubt her, don't. Just go with it. I thought these corals, these pinks, look, they're neon in person. Like, they're really bright. And then she uses like the 611, 612 kind of colors as green, like as berry stems. And I was like, no way. Like, that's a brown to me, but with the colors, it looks green. It looks green. And I'll show you. So don't question it. Go with it. It looks gorgeous. So here is my bun. Oh, okay. And you can see there the stems and whatnot. They really do look green in the context of the other colors. So hold on. I'm going to give you a closer view of him. He looks so crazy, but I love him so much. So, I'm really excited about this. This one is one that I am actually like really want to finish and like put up on my wall. I know where I want it to go. That Celestial Witch, I have no idea. That, oh, I forgot to tell you what I was stitching her on, of course. So the witch, she's stitched on a 28 count Monaco that I hand dyed with Rit dye myself. I think she looks really cool in this fabric. And I've had this fabric in my stash for probably like 3 or 4 years because I just did not know what to do with it. But then I saw this pattern, and she Stitch Sprout released it, and I ran to my stash and I kitted it up like immediately because I knew she would look so good on this. And the Monaco, I don't really stitch on Monaco very much. It was just, I just got it at Michael's or whatever, and Rit dyed it because I was having fun with dyes that year, but it was quite stiff and frustrating to stitch with at first. I think it's loosened up being stretched, and also like softened up just being handled, which happens also with linens. Like the picture of this plus linen, a lot of people talk about how it's kind of like scratchy. I love stitching with it, and I stitch in hand and holding it, and just kind of like you know, the heat of your hand and the motion of kind of scrunching it or whatever, it loosens up and it softens up beautifully. I love Picture This Plus lint. So it softened up a lot, and I'm enjoying it. It's not my usual fabric, but it's not horrible. We're doing well. Okay, so the fabric on the bun is a 32 count nougat from Zweigert, and I really like it. It's kind of purpley, so I thought it was really perfect for this project. And so I am doing 2 threads on both of these, the 32 and the 28. Next up, this is like one of those random ones. It wasn't planned, but it was a start this month. I just randomly, so I thrift. I really enjoy eBay hunting. And so I randomly just decided I wanted to look for vintage cross stitch kits. Like I wanted to stitch on the stiff kit Ada. Because that's how I learned, and I haven't stitched that way in like 10 years, but I was just craving it. It was like something nostalgic that I wanted to do. And so I found this adorable pattern. And so Calico Kittens are these, not to be confused, okay, Calico Kittens, not to be confused with Calico Critters of today. They were figurines, little figurines. Actually I have, okay, I went and got mine. They were figurines from the 80s and 90s. This one I have, it sits with my kitty's ashes. But I got this one at a thrift store. And it says, this one says cold nose, warm heart, and I just love it. So, so that's what this pattern was based on, because that was just kind of the style at the time. But I just hold on one more time, because she really is precious. Oh my lord. Okay. So, what have I done on her? Everything kit. This is kit everything. And I've got in the crosses for her hat, and I've started the crosses for like her ears and whatnot. And I'll probably do all the back stitching at the end. Because it's not a huge, it actually isn't a huge project. So I probably will, but I might, if not, I'll kind of do like her hat and her head, like her face and stuff, and then I'll stitch the crosses on her body and then finish the back stitch there. All right, this is my last whip. It is Spring Hair from La Di Da. Okay, there you go. And I just love this little gentleman. He reminds me of the bunny from the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, and I love Alice in Wonderland. I've even thought about adding a pocket watch chain to his little pocket, so I might do that. Lord, I'm shaky. Okay. So I started this last night. I have an extremely exciting start. I got some of the border in there. So what I'll do next, this one I'm doing, the ones where they're curly, if they're curly like that, it's because I'm stitching them in hand. Thrilling, I know. So what I'll do next is, and what I tend to do with designs like this, like I'll start the border to just get an idea of how to place everything, and then I'll stitch what's in the middle, and then I'll finish the border. Because I'm a landmark stitcher, and I'm not going to count 120 X's across. I'll figure it out later. So yeah, that's probably all I'll do on the border for now. I'm not using the called for anything. It calls for I think 2 or 3 threads. I decided to use Classic Colorworks Blackbird. And then Belle Island Ore from Brennan Needle. I like their floss. They're they're a little different. I think some of their techniques they use are kind of like yarn dyers use. They do like the powder with the flecks in some of theirs. This one is kind of like gray, blue into browns. So I think it'll look nice with Blackbird. And then the fabric is Fiber on a Whim 36 count moonstone. So I'm doing 1 strand on this. And I don't know. That actually is showing the color. It's quite nice. It's a real limestone kind of color. And I don't think I have ever stitched on anything quite this color, and I would like to get more of it if hopefully the dye lot's still kind of similar, because it's quite delicate. And I really like it. So I have just one recent finish here. This is a pattern from Stitchy Princess Black. She's a Ukrainian designer that you can find on Etsy. I do hope that is focusing. I love the colors on this. Everything's called for the fabric. Oh, the fabric's a 36 count Zweigart. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's lavender or something. I don't know what it was originally called, but this is how I imagined it. I wanted it on this lavender color. So I think I'm gonna make it into sort of like a sleep pillow, like not a sleep one, but with like like stuff with lavender and chamomile or something. But who knows when that'll happen. For now, it lives in the finish cubby. Okay, so now I'm going to do haul. I think I'm going to call my haul section collection development. It's a library term, but I do think of my stash as a collection, as a curated collection, just like my other collection. So again, I collect toys. I do it very deliberately and consciously. It might not look like that way to somebody who's not me, but everything that I have is serving some purpose for me. And so I try to be mindful when I purchase new things. I'm not saying that means I don't purchase new things very often. I certainly do. This is one of my, it's my main hobby. I don't have kids. I don't have a mortgage. So this is how I get some joy out of life and my income. So with no further ado, here's some collection development. The first thing is a Nashville acquisition. This was an exclusive to shops that went to Nashville. It's a primitive hair called the Stitcher. The exclusive, I imagine eventually this chart will be available, but the kit is a kit. It is the pattern and the fabric. This is a 30 count, so I'll do 2 strands on this. And then while I was ordering it, I ordered the floss, the DMC floss as well. I really like that about primitive hair. They use DMC a lot, and I think they look great. When I got it, I noticed both the floss and the fabric look, they're a lot warmer than I would say the model photo looks, but I'm happy about that. I don't mind that at all. So I'm excited about that. They look great together, the floss and the fabric, and that might be, honestly, I was one of those, I was like, I'll just get it. I don't know when I'll start it, but it might end up being one of those things I start willy-nilly, especially since I have everything already, right? Okay, next are some patterns. So I got out that La-Di-Da, the spring hair, and then it reminded me that there was another bunny pattern from La-Di-Da that I had intended to get, and then that made me look at La-Di-Da's other patterns. So I ended up picking out Spot the cat. I just think he's adorable. I like his funny little long legs. This is 2003, I think. No, 2012. Don't listen to me. Unreliable source. So, but yeah, one more time. Look at his nose. His little nose. Look at that gentleman. Okay. And then this was the reason I made my order. I got B is for Bunny. He's got his little egg basket and those pretty flowers. I just really liked, I've always liked this one. So, so at the same time, I got the threads that I didn't have, and I've pulled the ones that I did. And then back there behind the threads is Bee Stitch Me Into the Veil. I had this in stash, and I think that's what I would like to stitch that pattern on. So I have that all ready as well. Then I was watching Carol Saltbox Stitcher, and she was showing, it was her whip parade, and she had shown a sampler. And I'm not a huge sampler stitcher, mostly because I don't like, I like denser stitches. I don't like hopping around and having to start new threads all the time. And I feel like in alphabet samplers and stuff, and some, you kind of do have to do that. But when I see a sampler I like, I know it immediately, right? Like, I am like, that, you're coming home with me. So I saw that one, and I'll show you that one probably at the end, but I got 3 others while I was looking through her catalog. So this is the first one, Red Bird Fractor. Oh my lord. Hold on. I'm trying to see it. Okay. Those guys are so silly. They look zooted. I love them. They delight me to no end. I love them so much. Okay. I love birds. I love funny looking birds, especially. This one is the Candlestick Maker Sampler. It's a nice little square sampler, and that gentleman has a lovely rump. So, yes. This is Christmas Cottage. I don't do a ton, just like samplers, I don't do a ton of Christmas stitching, but when I see a Christmas pattern I like, I know it immediately, so I'll pick it up. When I got this, I realized, I think, ooh, I don't think that's gonna focus, but there's a sheep on top of the mantle that I think might be 1/1. So if he is, that'll be fun. All right, this is the pattern that made me look up Brenda Gervais patterns, and it's a big boy. 327 by 183, but beautiful. And it was specifically, so Carol had like a bit of this side border done, and it was just so beautiful on her whip, and so I just had to get it. The one thing about with the needle and thread patterns, they don't usually have a DMC conversion, and I think this is one that I really would have liked to do in a DMC, not just all DMC. So this is kind of one of those that I'm talking about where you have to figure out, okay, do I want to pick a DMC substitute? Do I want to look through all the die lots? Do I want to pick my alternatives, etc., etc.? For that reason, it's getting filed. And the day when I say I got to start a sampler, it'll come out, and I'll put all that together. When I was on eBay, when I found the Calico Kitten pattern, I also picked up a couple other kits and then a couple other vintage patterns. So for the vintage patterns, I'll do those first. I found this Thanksgiving, this Cricut collection. It's a copyright 1997. And I just thought it was nice. I like the sentiment. I don't stitch like a ton of Thanksgiving type autumnal stuff because I don't decorate for Thanksgiving. But I had a pattern going for several years that was my Thanksgiving stitch. I would stitch it in November. I finished it last year, so I have a slot open. I might start that. This one I'm so excited about. It's from, oh, hold on. It's from Stitchy Kitty. I don't know if they design anymore, but it's just all these Halloween kitties. That jack-o'-lantern, the jack-o'-lanterns and the jack-o'-lantern and the skeleton I will be doing. And then I'll do the ghosty if I feel like it. But I love those two. And I do, listen, is it silly when they put ears on a skeleton? Perhaps. But is a dancing cat skeleton silly? Yes. Alright, last two eBay acquisitions is this, which is just really outside of anything I've ever done. It's this, okay. This is what the pattern looks like, but what's interesting is it's on a 6-count Aida. And it finishes, so it's pretty big when it's done. So, you know, if it ever gets out of the finished cubby, I'll probably make it into like a soft wall hanging. It shows either framed or a pillow, but I don't think either of those things are what I'm looking for. But truthfully, this is something that would sort of go with my like kitchen decor because, as I said, I thrift a lot. I have a lot of stuff that's kind of vintagey. I like nostalgic kitty cat stuff. And then, okay, this is not my last, this is my last eBay thing. It's another pattern, and I just adored this little bunny. A lot of bunnies this month. I guess that's appropriate. Okay, so it's baking a cake. It's a little overalls. Oh my god. Okay. So I love that. Again, so this one, the Calico Kitten is on a 14-count kit Aida. This one has a 16-count Aida in the kit. I'll use that unless it starts to make me mad. I don't always love a 16-count. I like 18 and I like 14, but I think 16 is like a weird in between. But we'll find out. We'll find out. But it's got like, you know, kit floss, etc. There's two other ones in the collection. Two little bunnies. The ballerina one looks like something that would have been in my bedroom when I was a child. Yeah, little animals in ballet in tutus. It's definitely what my little bedroom looks like. Okay, we got two things from thrifting. I found this, you know, thrifting for cross stitch is kind of hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes there's a bunch and you can tell that probably someone donated a lot, and then sometimes there's nothing. I got pretty lucky because I found two things that I don't usually find. So first, this is 14-count Aida, but at first I was looking at it and I was like, what on earth? And I was trying to look to see the squares on this and see like how on earth would I even stitch on that? But then I realized this is what it looks like. The part I was looking at was this part. And you're supposed to stitch in the middle, which is it's really kind of a creamy white Aida. So if you find a pattern, and I'd probably find one of my vintagey looking patterns that fits in there, then you can kind of have that plaid kind of a border. And so that looks really cool. So I picked that up. Probably give it a good wash. It's been in, I believe, somewhere very dusty for a while. And then my other thrift find, for a whopping 29 cents, I found this little Raggedy Ann pattern. You can't read that, but it says something or another about friendship. But I would probably do just this one down, oh gosh. Dude, that looks awful. That one down there, it's just two little Raggedy Anns. They're quite cute. Last piece of haul. This was a Nashville release. The Remember Me Morning Sampler from Summer House Stitch Works. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put a line instead of this line. I'm going to put a couple lines from John Keats' Ode on a Grecian Urn because of the urn. It reminded me of that poem, which I just adore. And while I was at it, I picked out, I do this sometimes where I kind of look to see which overdyes I think I really don't want to compromise on and what colors I might want to switch out. So I bought the 2 blues that are called for. I thought that they really added something. For the greens, I picked out some DMCs that I like, and then it looks like I've also pulled a couple from Stash that I'll just use here and there. So I think that's pretty much kitted. You know, I still have to pick a fabric, but I have a pretty decent fabric stash. So that shouldn't be too hard. I have no idea when I will start that. Might be soon, might be not soon. My last section will be books that I acquired recently. As I said, I love to read, so these won't be book reviews. I haven't read them yet, but I'll just tell you a little bit about why I decided to buy each one. So this is a short story collection from the author of, you might have heard of Eileen or My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I actually have not read either of those yet. They do get recommended to me quite often, but I wasn't quite sure, honestly, based on the reviews are quite mixed. I think it's one of those like you're gonna love it or not really. And so I wanted to know about this author's writing style, and I thought her short story collection might be a good way for me to dip in. If I don't like it, I can just nope out after a couple stories. But if I do, then I've kind of gotten into her style, kind of familiar with her style, her prose, her cadence, and then that I think helps you step into a full novel. So I'm excited about this. I enjoy reading short stories. I have quite a large short story collection library, personal library, because I enjoy reading short stories kind of before bed. Get me switching from like screen time to sleeping time, and you're able to read a complete work in one sitting. Go to bed and think about all the themes. So on that note, my next one is also a short story collection. I don't know this author, Catherine Harlan. The collection is called Fruing Bodies. And I'm just gonna, one more for that cover, right? I'm gonna read just the like excerpt that got me to buy this book. I had never heard of it before. I haven't even read reviews. I don't love reading reviews, but you know, sometimes you can't get away from it. But I'll just read you this. So, in stories that beckon and haunt, Fruing Bodies ranges confidently from the fantastical to the gothic to the uncanny, as it follows characters, mostly queer, mostly women, on the precipice of change. Echoes of timeless myth and folklore reverberate through urgent narratives of discovery, appetite, and coming of age in a time of crisis. So, I mean, that's right up my alley. Folklore and myth are another special interest of mine other than poetry. I have quite a large personal library of folklore from different cultures that interest me. So. My last one is a bit of nonfiction. This is Byron, A Life in 10 Letters. It's a Cambridge Press sort of thing, so it's like really textbook heavy. I decided to go ahead and buy this. It came out last year, so there's not a paperback yet. I think the paperback's going to come out later this year, but I decided to go ahead because I was just recently reading one of my other books that had some biographical information on the young romantics. So that's Keats, Byron, and Shelley. And it's also the name of a goth subculture in the 80s. Yes, I know that. But, so I was reading some biographical information about him. Honestly, out of the three, I know the least about Byron. He's just such a character that sometimes, it's a little hot to the touch, right? You're not sure if you're drawn to him or repulsed by him, but that's part of the intrigue. While reading that biographical information, I found out that he had been writing, so he died in his mid-30s, and he had been writing memoirs he led quite an interesting life. I mean, other than just being a poet and being a lord, his political beliefs and his dedication to Greek liberation, very interesting. He was very passionate about those things. And he was writing memoirs. He was writing his memoirs. And after he died, his publisher, his ex-wife, and his half-sister decided to have the memoirs burned. And that just, it gave me like an immense feeling of sadness. Obviously, most of us will sort of just fade away like that. But so, love him or hate him, I wanted to read some of his own words. So these are letters that he wrote. And I'll let you know on the other side how I feel about them. But for now, I think that's it. I think I probably said that I was going to go through plans, but I think this video is long enough and you'll find out what I end up stitching next time, hopefully. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll let me know. If you didn't, I hope you left. Again, I'm quite nervous about being out there, but you can't make friends if you don't put yourself out there. And I would like to make friends. I really would like to be more part of the community rather than an outsider looking in. I mean, I stitch constantly, but as far as the social aspect, I watch everybody do stitch alongs together and Zooms and cons and etc. And I've never done any of those. Well, I've done Zooms, a few, but nothing that's ever really like turned into friendships or lasted a very long time. So, I don't know. It's Easter Sunday right now. I don't know when I'm going to post this. I need to figure, I want to do like a little, I'm going to do some editing and I'm going to try to make an intro. You'll know if I had succeeded in making an intro. But I've never done video editing before. But I work in technology, so I think I could figure it out. Hopefully I'll figure it out. If not, we'll have a cold open and it'll be okay. We'll all get through it together. Okay, thank you for watching. Goodbye.